Howdy, howdy. We're just getting things set up, and then I'll be ready to take your questions. Man, I say howdy a lot for somebody who doesn't identify with, you know, Southwestern culture or whatever that means. How's your day been as a physicist? It wasn't as productive as I would have liked, but I appreciate the question. Unfortunately, it was, you know, I didn't prove many theorems. I didn't have any particularly nice physical insights, so, you know, it is what it is. But anyway. All right, well, let's get started now that we're live on both platforms. Is time a thing? Well, it certainly is a something, but what it is a good question. Please, science fiction book recommendation, Ender's Shadow by Orson Scott Card. Did you watch the most recent Terrence Howard video podcast? What's your thoughts? Well, if it's anything like his past appearances, it's absolutely nonsense. I don't know what podcast you're referring to, though, so I can't really comment. Why not just one physic instead of physics? I don't know, it's just the name. Second question, I suppose, do you frequently use the calculus of variations in your work? I'd rather answer that question by giving an example. This is my work notebook. Except it says February 2025 on it. Let me just turn to a relevant page. I definitely have something in here. Here. To answer your question, yes. Definitely. In fact, like half of my projects are explicit results about calculus. Half of my current active projects are explicitly about calculus of variations. Is consciousness a fundamental force of nature? It doesn't seem like it's a force. What's your stance on Fiendlight and gravitational manipulation? It's real. Do you have any videos on action? I do, actually. Read all of it, Underverse. It's excellent. So, but I can't recommend those. I don't got anything else. Did you do research in undergrad, and for what major? More. I did do research in undergrad. I did particle phenomenology in, you know, physics. I did physics research. Why don't you know that it's electrostatics that's keeping on Earth and not gravity? Well, it's not, and the data disagrees with you. So what's the square root of pi? Like, I don't know, 1.5-ish? Who do you think is the go to physics? It's Einstein. Like, easy. When are you doing more reviews of papers? I did one yesterday. What is your most recent paper? Last thing I uploaded was in December. I'm not so proud of that paper. It's just kind of like a little result, but it's just on a type of geometry that shows up quite frequently in relativity. Thoughts on block universe? Seems about right. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why could there be nothing rather than something? Sound like Elon Musk? How dare you? Is time actually the fourth dimension, or just why they accept the theory? I mean, that is our best model that we use to describe the universe, and it describes it very, very accurately. If it isn't a fundamental force, why does observation change the double slit? It doesn't. It's not observation that's involved. It's interaction that's involved. Just compute. What is the most interesting discovery theory in your field so far this year? That's not it's not a question that I can answer. Just computing quasi-electric cross-sections of electron on 40 calcium using relativistic. I'm sorry. Nope, you get to do that on your own. Have you read What If? I haven't read the book, no. Einstein over Newton? I would say so, but it's close. Do any odd perfect numbers exist? Yeah, but I'm not. They do, but I can't fit it in the margins. It doesn't. It's too big to fit in the comment box. Where can you see your papers? You can't, because I don't make them public. For like I try not to link my academic career with my TikTok career. So, Why does interaction change it? I have a whole bunch of videos on this that you can go watch on TikTok and on YouTube, I think. But essentially, it's because whenever you interact with something, you have to do something to it. You know, equal and opposite reaction. So if something does something to you, which is required in order for you to measure it, then you have to be doing something to it. I meant to you personally. No, the point is I can't answer that question because it's not a thing I think about. I don't like rate them as like the most exciting. Like it's just not a thing that. It's just not a thing I think about. Why don't electrons fall into the nucleus? Because they have too much angular momentum. Opinions on the direwolves? As far as I know, they're not actually direwolves. What is Noether's theorem? Noether's theorem is a statement about, well, Noether's first theorem anyway, which is the one all physicists care about. Noether's theorem is the one about how if you have a symmetry of some system, like some particle in a potential or just any system, then that symmetry corresponds to a conserved charge or a conserved quantity, something that must remain constant as time flows. How is entanglement not faster than light? Well, nothing's moving, right? Is entropy the inverse of gravity? Not. That doesn't seem obvious to me, no. Would you transfer your consciousness if it exists to a machine? I don't know. Do you research or teach somewhere? I do. I work at a university. It's not a teaching position, though. Do you believe there's matter in the universe that can't be explained by science? No, I don't. Why do they use ECEF when they launch rockets into space? Probably because that's the coordinate system at which the rocket's at rest in initially. Wasn't Einstein a creep that married his cousin and took a lot of credit for his previous wife's work? No, he didn't take credit for his wife's work. That's a myth. I don't know if you want to call him a creep. Like, he definitely did marry his first cousin, but I think that was kind of normal back then. And beyond that, like, arguably he didn't treat his his second wife so well. That's debatable. I wouldn't say he was a creep. He definitely may have been a bit of like a philanderer, but my understanding is that his wife knew about this and that was part of their arrangement. So, and when I say philanderer, I just mean that he like, had affairs with people. I don't know if he definitely didn't do anything creepy with women. He definitely didn't abuse his wife. Like, sorry, he didn't do anything creepy with like children. He definitely didn't abuse his wife. He may have just been kind of like shitty as far as relationships go. How are numbers represented in physics computer simulations with extremely large ranges of values? That's a good question that I don't know the answer to. Personal question, which one of your stream accumulates more crowd, the atheist one or the flat earther one? The atheist one, by far. Have you talked about the Schwarzschild radius? I have several videos on it. It's a number. What mathematical physics background should I have to study GR? You should have linear algebra, you should have differential and ideally partial differential equations. And in a sense, that's probably it. Multivariable calculus, too. Shouldn't going to space be way cheaper? Why should it be way cheaper? What do you think about relativity? It's cool. Is the universe infinite or limited? Well, as far as we can tell, well, there certainly isn't an edge to the universe. Whether or not that means that it's infinitely large is a different question. Doing relativity and physics 2 course in uni, math ain't math, and any advice? Work on your, well, it depends on which part. Practice it. That's all you can do. All right, let's bring up a guest. Are you ever going to do Overwatch stream again? No, my computer can't currently handle it. Maybe when I move back to the States and I get a better computer, maybe. All right, let's bring up a guest.
Oh, hi, Blitz. How are you doing?
Hey, Marco, what questions you got for me?
Right, so first, I wanted to ask, are you an astrophysicist or what are you?
I'm a mathematical physicist, so I do mathematics and physics.
Okay, and so I take it that you don't believe in God.
Yeah, but that's not the topic of today.
Okay, so where do you think the laws of physics come from?
today isn't a debate live. So if you have questions about physics that you know that are reasonable, that are not like philosophy, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, you'll have to come back another day.
Okay, so it's about physics though.
Yeah, so that's a philosophy question, not a physics question. Okay, he left. How hard would you need to hit a chicken to cook it? Harder than you could without breaking it. Might not be your field. What is your opinion on Kirchhoff's voltage law? Do you think it holds or it doesn't under the influence of fluctuating magnetic fields? So the voltage law, of course, doesn't hold if you have magnetic fields changing, because the curl of E, which is supposed to be 0, when there are no fluctuating magnetic fields, is not 0 when there are fluctuating magnetic fields. But so like that's why you just use Maxwell's equations. The Kirchhoff voltage law just kind of is a simplified version. Is it true we age faster than astronauts? Yeah, like. Well, wait a minute, might be slower. We age slightly differently. I always have to work out the actual direction. So, yeah, we age slower than astronauts, mildly. How are mathematical physics papers different from normal physics papers? Mathematical physics papers will have theorems and proofs. What is physics? Physics is the study of matter and motion. That's kind of but I have a really good video about this on my page that's pinned, so. Do you have any advice for studying math independently? Pick up a book and do the practice problems. Like, do all of them. Can you explain how an up quark can turn into a down quark? Yeah, by emitting a W boson. So, the W boson is a flavor changing particle. The electroweak force, the weak nuclear force, is kind of the odd one out when it comes to the quantum forces, in that it actually causes particles to change flavor, to change type. So electrons can turn into neutrinos, up quarks can turn into down quarks under the influence of the W boson, which is the weak quark, or which is the weak force boson, one of the weak force bosons. And so it's just a thing that can happen. How hard was your degree? I don't know. I'd do it again. Have you ever taken any psychedelics? I've not. What parameters could be affecting the expansion rate? There's a lot. In what sense is 2 plus 1D gravity topological, and why is this interesting? Yeah, so the point is that, so the way that we typically describe gravity is you have some Einstein field equations on the left-hand side of your equation, and you have your matter tensor on the right-hand side of your equation. The Einstein field equations tell you about the Ricci curvature, which is a type of curvature that describes the space-time geometry. But usually, the Ricci curvature is like a subset of the full Riemann curvature tensor, which actually describes the entire curvature of the space-time, whereas the Ricci curvature is kind of like an average of that, right? So in 3 dimensions, the Riemann curvature tensor entirely determines the Ricci curvature tensor entirely determines the Riemann curvature tensor. There's just not enough values. Like the average of the thing is the thing. Roughly, this is just because of the number of independent components the Riemann curvature tensor has. Anyway, what this means is that the only place where the Riemann curvature tensor is not 0 is precisely where there's matter. And what that means is that there's just no propagating degrees of freedom. There's no gravitational waves that can propagate, because gravitational waves are things that propagate in the vacuum. And if there's no matter around, there's just no curvature. So there just can be no curvature unless there's matter at the place that the curvature is supposed to be. So we call this topological because essentially, at least the vacuum Einstein equations only will have solutions that have singularities, essentially. And so these would be like punctured disks or like punctured spheres, things like this. And those are topological things. There's no actual propagating degrees of freedom. That's roughly why. Anyway. He doesn't answer YouTube questions. I absolutely do. There's just not as many YouTube questions. That's all. He's found his platform talking waffle and attempting to sound educated. Guys, he knows nothing. He's regurgitating other people's theories and nonsense. Well, I do know quite a lot. Even if you think I'm regurgitating other people's stuff, that's still knowing stuff. So, that's cool. What do you mean there's no edge to the universe? Is the universe not always expanding? There's an edge to the observable universe, but the universe itself, it doesn't even make sense to talk about it as having an edge. What would that mean? That, like, you get there and then you have to stop? Like, what would that be? Is there any course you recommend to learn about quantum physics? Yeah, a introductory course to quantum mechanics at a university. Where do you think quantum AI will be used in physics? Quantum AI is not a thing. It's like, as far as I know, that's not a thing that's being used at all. Do you think AI will eventually become smart enough to take your job? Maybe. Why don't mathematical physics get as much credit as theoretical physics? Mathematical physics, in some sense, do, but a lot of the people that we would have thought of as theoretical physicists, like Roger Penrose and Stephen Hawking back in the day, they were mathematical physicists in a sense. I have seen The Big Bang Theory featuring Sheldon Cooper, yes. Why does light not need a medium? It does, but the medium it needs is the electromagnetic field. It's possible to calorifically measure entangled systems compared to unentangled. Do you mean like measure the energy levels? Because, yeah, in principle, but that won't tell you whether they're entangled or not. Hey Blitz, why is there no absolute truth in science? Well, science is about an inductive process, so you make observations and then you deduce some hypothesis from those observations, or you infer some hypothesis from those observations and then you test it more. But it could always be the case that your measurements are just statistical flukes, right? I'm sure you get asked this a ton, but what books would you recommend for an amateur wanting to learn about astrophysics? Read A Brief History of Time. It's the best one. That it is the popular science book to read. How influential was Shor's algorithm in highlighting the immense power of quantum computing? It was the thing that brought it up. Is there anything as death in quantum physics? Yes, you can die whether quantum physics is true or not. What do you do for a living? I'm a researcher. I work at a university. What's your favorite classic physics experiment? Do relativity experiments count? Because if so, then I might say Michelson-Morley's up there. The Pound-Rebko experiment, I think, might be well, that's kind of quantum mechanics, though. It uses the Moss Bauer effect. Yeah, it might be Michelson-Morley, actually. That's a really good one, because it kind of demonstrated the necessity of relativity. Is there a magnetic field between here and the sun? Yeah, it's the sun's magnetic field. Do you hate Albert Einstein? Why would I hate Albert Einstein? He's the GOAT. What uni did you study at? I'm not telling you. What do you do for a living? I'm a researcher. I work at a university. What is B theory of time? It's essentially viewing time the universe, it's like space-time, as like a loaf of bread, where each slice of bread is a different moment in time. What age did you get your undergraduate degree? I guess I was just about to turn 22. Do you think the multiverse exists? I don't. Who is the most brilliant mind in science? I mean, it might be Albert Einstein. His name is literally synonymous with genius. Are general relativity and quantum mechanics incompatible? They seem to be. Give you a job. I need a job. Look, my contract ends in like 3 weeks, and I don't have a job lined up either. I need to eat too. Are you an atheist? Yes, I am. At what size exactly do we stop using relativity and start using quantum physics? So we always use special relativity. Special relativity is always true. It's used in quantum mechanics all the time. The problem is general relativity, but we don't use general relativity at scales smaller than planets, right? What is the universe expanding into? It's not expanding into anything. The universe's expansion is local, meaning that you don't have to know what's going on around it to know that it's expanding here. Do you prefer any model of an eternal universe? I'm actually working on one, so, but you know, not gonna spoil it. Is it worth asking the physics department of my university nicely to visit the particle accelerator? Do it. Yeah, why not? Don't you run another live talking about religion? Yeah, I do science lives on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then I do debate lives the rest Monday, Thursday, Friday. How long did it take to get a PhD? 7 years from undergrad. Opinions on Imperial College London? Quite good. I actually have a colleague there who's very, very, very good, very well known. What do you think about the people who think the Earth is flat? They're quite misguided. What the hell are you reading? I have TikTok comments. That's what. Does light have mass? No. I'm a biologist, so you'll have to forgive my lack of vocab in your field. You're picking up what my questions are anyway. Of course, you're good. You're smart, and you don't believe in superior intelligence, which creates the universe. True. Why does massless light get affected by gravity of black holes? Because gravity is just the curvature of space-time. And so whether you're massless or not, if space-time around you is curved, you're going to follow the curve. How do we verify my credibility? Well, you can go back and watch some old videos. I've actually showed my diploma in old videos, or you can just believe me. I don't care if you do. Will you ever cut your hair? No. Well, maybe. Has man been to the moon? Absolutely. Planck scale? What about it? I know you see me. I see what? I'm in an English major. In class, we're talking about entropy. Could you explain it to me? Yeah, so entropy is roughly, very, very roughly, and this is a very imprecise sense, but it's roughly a measure of disorder. So the more disorderly a system is, or meaning that the more details it would take to describe it, the more entropy it has. And the second law of thermodynamics states that the entropy of a closed system never decreases. How good at math physics do you have to be to become a physicist, astrophysicist? Very. I mean, you vary. Favorite ice cream flavor? I like peanut butter. I also like anything with chocolate. Is the universe as a whole intrinsically or extrinsically curved, or would those concepts not apply to the universe as a whole? So extrinsically curved wouldn't apply to the universe unless the universe is in something bigger. But talking about the intrinsic curvature of the universe is absolutely fruitful to do. As far as we can tell, our universe spatially, well, okay, we can talk about the extrinsic curvature of a spatial slice in space-time. Like a moment of time is curved in time. Well, actually, it seems like it's not curved in time. That's one of the data points that we have. But we can also talk about the intrinsic curvature of the entire spacetime, and it absolutely has intrinsic curvature. That's what gravity is. Gravity is the intrinsic curvature of spacetime. Is there a gravity particle of gravity is the distortion of spacetime? Maybe. We don't know. We just really don't know. Can you please explain if we feel acceleration or orbit around the sun? We do not, because that's freefall. So any type of freefall you will not feel, even though it might seem like you're accelerating. Like imagine skydiving. If there was no drag, you would not feel the acceleration. Can you solve a quadratic equation? Yes. Have you read the Oppenheimer-Einstein document on UFOs? Nope. How to start contributing to the physics as a data analyst? I don't know. You'd have to get involved with experimentalists, I suppose. If light is packets of electromagnetic radiation, why isn't it affected by magnetic or electric fields? Because electric and magnetic, or electromagnetism is linear, at least in the low field limit, small field limit. And so what this means is that a solution to Maxwell's equations can be added to another solution of Maxwell's equations, and the resulting thing will be a solution of Maxwell's equations. And what that means is that if you have an electromagnetic wave traveling through space and time, that's a solution to Maxwell's equations. If you then take, just some electric field that is also a solution to Maxwell's equations, then the sum of those two, meaning the electromagnetic field traveling along on top of this electric field, is also a solution. So it'll just behave exactly as you would expect it to. Can you pick up a water bottle with your mind? Ooh, it's floating. With the DESI results, do you have faith in the cosmological constant now that we have a quantity called W, which varies with time according to the quintessence model of the scalar field? Yeah, I'm actually less and less sold that the cosmological constant is a cosmological constant, actually. What's a quantum field? It is a field that is quantum, which is unfortunately the best explanation I can give. A field is just a thing that takes on a value at every moment of space and at every place in space and time. And meaning that it's quantum means that it's governed by the Schrodinger equation. That's basically all it is. Can space-time gravity be a scalar field? No, there's not enough degrees of freedom. You're going to St. Andrews for mathematical physics. That's huge, Jack. That's a huge deal. Can you solve an A-level past paper? I mean, probably. In your personal experience, what are the differences between math and physics, especially in the more advanced settings of both fields? Mathematicians who are like genuine mathematicians and not like math phys like me, they don't care about physics at all. They don't care about application. They just say, huh, that's funny. Let's try to prove a theorem about it. And they don't care about like relevance to physics or like physical intuition at all. Is gravity mass divided the same as electricity charge? They're similar, but they're not the same. Ever been to South Africa? I have not. If information can't be destroyed, what happens to the information that falls into a black hole? The general consensus is that the information will leak out in the form of Hawking radiation. How think is the Earth according to Flat Earth? I don't know. Do you have an answer for the contingency argument? Yeah, I don't trust metaphysics to get us an understanding of the universe writ large. But you'd have to come to another debate live for that. Do you think that despite all the Flat Earth anti-science BS that physics is still in a good place? I don't know. Who knows? I read a paper last week about a quantum gravity solution that depicts gravity as a sort of negative energy pressure. It allows the solution without gravitons, log or strings, which I appreciate. Interesting. Why is it required that an electron-positron pair generated by a gamma photon has short lifespans? Momentum conservation, and yeah, it's essentially momentum conservation. So essentially, you can't have a so let me put it this way. There is a rest frame for any two particles, right? There's a frame of rest where the center of mass of the system is not moving for any pair of particles. There is no center of mass for a gamma photon, because there's no inertial frame that corresponds to a photon because it's moving at the speed of light. So it just can't be the case. You can't have both. Is gravity a byproduct of electromagnetic radiation or fields? No. Applying to grad school next semester for either AOMO or theory. Any advice? Do what you like to do, I suppose. I mean, it's who says that it's going to be easy, but you know. Is the landscape poster heavier than a portrait if stuck to the wall at the same points with tape? Shouldn't be. It's the same poster. It's the same height. Does gravity move at the speed of light? Yes, it does. Gravity is the world an illusion, just something we perceive? I mean, if you want to think that, you can, but that's not what the data seems to suggest. Debate Jay Dyer. He can always come onto my live stream if he wants. Is time fundamentally real, or is it just an illusion we experience due to entropy? Probably something like the latter. What is the integral for non-constant force in a circular motion, not in Cartesian? You'd have to give me the formula for the force. What classes did you take in high school? I don't remember, bro. Meant to ask a question there. The paper stated that vacuum energy, my words, they just describe the field itself as minima or quantum forms its own outward pressure that acts on energy. Speed of light a property of light or a property of space? No, it's a property of space-time. Is there a way to apply Brownian motion to quantum particles? Yeah, ask the StatMech people, or the quantum statistics people. Does physics pay? I mean, yeah, technically it pays, just not a lot. That acts on energy itself, forming a gravitational effect. That seems a little bit sketchy, Jackson. My question is, Barry, do you also have a PhD in plantology, and how hard was it in grad school? I do have a PhD in plantology. That's very true. Yeah. How does the inverse square law apply to an aggregate of point sources? It applies to an aggregate of point sources far away. So basically, the near field behavior will be very, very complicated, right? But once you get far enough away, they all start to look like a point particle again. What's your stance on the theory that we exist in a black hole? I'm not convinced by it, but, you know, it'd be cool if it were true. Have you always been gifted quantitatively? In a sense, yeah, sure. Will firearm work in space? I've read conflicting reports. Yeah, of course. Gravity is like a magnetic field. Everything has a mass, has force. That's not quite the same. If an apple falls, does the moon also fall? Yeah, the moon is falling. What would happen if the Earth was flat? We'd all die. When I throw a dart at a wall, I can always divide the distance between the dart and the wall in half. So how does the dart ever hit the wall? Well, because the dart is passing over an infinite... the dart passes over an infinite number of infinitesimal slices every second. This was resolved by Newton, who basically invented the notion of limits. Or maybe it was Cauchy, who knows. But the point is that when we think of motion, you're not passing over an infinite number of finite-sized things. You're passing over an infinite number of infinitesimally small things. And you can pass over those instantaneously, in zero time, essentially. Can you bypass the laws of physics? No, otherwise there wouldn't be laws. Why is the quantum field theory currently accepted? Because it makes astoundingly accurate predictions. Is reality just a quantum wave function? Could be. What's your take on the rationalist school of thought? I guess I'm technically a rationalist because I'm not an empiricist. But I guess there's more than that. Can GR be described in algebraic geometry? Probably, but I don't want to. Alright, let's bring up Ethian for questions. Good book suggestion for differential geometry on manifolds for pre-grad uni? Ethan, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for bringing me up. How you doing?
Doing all right. What questions you got?
Yeah. So, did you happen to see that video I pinged you on with Mr. Dr. Matt O'Dowd on the weak energy condition for
I
cyclic
did, but I
universes?
didn't watch it.
No
Because I
problem.
think I watched
I
it a
have
while
another
ago.
question. So,
I think I
what's
watched
that?
it a while ago, but I just didn't remember it. I just didn't have time. But if
Yeah,
you have
no,
another
no
question,
problem.
let's
I
go.
have something else.
All right.
Yeah. So I saw a post today talking about how looking at Maxwell's equations, the reason why electromagnetic waves travel at c, or maybe they could be getting this backwards, is because it just happens to be the speed at which the permittivity and permeability of space works out so that both fields oscillate in a way that carries the the wave. And I was wondering if that's the reason why it travels at c, or if that's getting things backwards, and if there's like a similar way to look at other forces like gravitational waves. Is there something that works out where it happens to just travel at c at that
Yeah.
speed?
So it seems like to me like like they're getting it backwards. Really, what you should be thinking of is there is a fundamental speed limit in our universe. The speed of causality or something. And then there is a relationship about, I can never remember which one's which. Permittivity, I think, is related to electricity. Um, there's a relationship between, and then there's electricity, which has a permittivity. And then it happens to be, because of special relativity, that magnetism even exists. And the constant that's relevant for magnetism would, of course, be related to the electricity constant, permittivity, and the speed of light, which you get from special relativity. And so you're going to get that explicit relationship between the two, and it'll be like an inverse square root relationship or something like that. But yeah, so they're probably getting it backwards. I think that the correct way to view this is not as magnetism and electricity are both fundamental in some sense. Really, we should be thinking of it as the permittivity is fundamental and the speed of light is fundamental, and magnetism is just a byproduct of those two things.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Thanks. Can you expand a bit more on the because of special relativity it exists?
Yeah, so I made a video about this a while ago, but essentially, the notion that the laws of physics stay the same in all reference frames gets you that you have to have some sort of magnetic field. And the reason why is because you could imagine that you're in the reference frame of an electric charge that's moving. So if you're in the electron's reference frame, then there's just a static electric field. But if you're in some other reference frame where the electron is moving, the electric field would be changing as it passes by you, but the effect that you would experience would not just be from the electric field changing. There has to be something else to mimic what the person riding the electron would see. And so in order for the observed effects to be consistent between both the electron's reference frame and the non-electron's reference frame, you have to have something else. And if you suppose that something else is a magnetic field, then everything works. Essentially, you need it to allow the electric field to transform into something, or to transform into itself plus something more when you change reference frames, and that's the magnetic field.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't really I guess I don't really understand how many consequences are just to relativity existing and how many things kind of fall out of that.
Basically, all of
Um,
it. It turns out,
yeah,
like all of physics. That's why Einstein was the goat.
yeah, fair. And my last question is: did you have a like specific cyclic model that you subscribe to, and
Nope.
how do you feel about the ekpyrotic
I hate it.
model?
I
Well,
used to
why do
love
you
it
hate
so
it? Is
much,
it just
and now
because
because
string
it's string
theory?
theory. Yeah, it's string
Woo.
theory.
Yeah, okay.
It's a cool
So
idea, and I remember watching a Nova special about it when I was a kid, but I'm not sure it's really right. But that's just because I'm a little bit skeptical of string theory.
yeah, I was trying to find out where the idea of the brains came from, and the best answer I got was just
It's
string
string theory.
theory.
Yeah, it's string theory.
Yeah.
Of course it
So
is.
which model do you like?
I don't have a preferred model. I think that there's a lot of different like the thing is it's kind of like it's kind of like a I don't know if anybody's gotten it right yet. I am working on a model, like a very, very basic model, but I am working on a model, just to kind of see some features of like entropy reversal and things like that. So maybe if and when I come up with my own model, I'll like that one the most. But you know, it's It's not any one model I like. It's just I think that it answers a lot of questions and resolves a lot of problems if the universe somehow is cyclic.
Okay, cool. I look forward to your Nobel.
Well,
That's
yeah,
all I have for today.
we'll see. All right,
Thank
take
you
care,
for
bud.
the locally real chat, and have a good one.
Chat is so locally real for that. More, that is true. That is also true without special relativity. More about finite propagation speed. Well, that's the thing. You would expect finite propagation speed with relativity, right? Do you mean cyclical in time? I do. What college did you go to? I'm not telling. Did you report college kids for cheating in your physics class? Yes, because they violated the terms of the syllabus. So yes, I'm going to report them for doing that, and I will give them a grade deduction, as is my right as an instructor of record. Yes, I did do that. What kind of math would I need to study in order to understand Fem's equations in science? If you want to understand them all, then you need all of them. I need you to tell me to get a grip and do my math homework. Do your math homework. Get a grip, Elder Brewer. String theory is a dead end or not? I don't think it's a dead end. How do virtual particles mediate forces? They don't. Fields mediate forces. It's just fields can be described as sums of virtual particles. Is infinity a concept or is it found in reality? It's both. It could very well be both. Do gravitational waves attenuate similar to EM waves? Yes. Yes, they do. Do Nobel Prose winners get paid? Yeah, $1 million. Can we call in or something? Yes. Yes, you can. There is a thing in the bottom, in the description. I haven't seen Dragon or Necker 2020, no. Do you have a focus in the field? Yeah, I do relativity, cosmology, that kind of stuff. And also mathematics, too. Are you alarmed at the anti-academic rhetoric going on with the Trump presidency? Very alarmed, actually. Like, super alarmed. I'm so very alarmed. Do you use multiple linear regression in my area? No. Can you explain Berry phase? Not well. What is the airspeed velocity of a swallow? African or European? Wait, they actually get $1 million? Yeah, that's the reward for the Nobel Prize. Yeah. I think it's just strictly speaking, it's not a prediction of special relativity. Well, look, if you're saying that there's a finite propagation speed, then yeah, I guess in principle you don't need that all laws are the same in all reference frames. But if you don't have that the laws are the same in all reference frames, then you would have no reason to expect that your observations should be the same in the two different reference frames. So it's just a little bit strange to say that you don't need relativity when you basically need the two postulates in order for it to make sense. What do you think someone would feel going through a worm? What? Would physics be something I can pursue to help learn a different angle on exercise and biomechanics? Probably not. I mean, like, you should learn it anyway, but it probably won't hurt that much. How is time managed in orbit? Are there different time zones? I think they just use UTC. What classes do you teach? I don't teach any classes right now. How would I call in? And is now the best time or another better time? You can call in now. There's a link in the description. What is your favorite law? Gravity. It's got to be the law of gravity. It's so elegant. Do you have any suggestions for what a young student should focus on if they love learning about space and physics? It depends on how old they are. I don't know. You got to give me some more context. Do EM radiate energy in increasing and decreasing matter because it is a wave? I don't know what the question is. I don't understand that. They said the universe is infinitely expanding, so that means outside is infinite. There is no outside the universe. Is gay okay? Yes, of course. Coconuts migrate? Of course they do. Could time be a particle? I don't think so. I don't even know what that would mean. Do you come across Lebesgue integrals in physics? And if so, can you give an example? No, not really. Are you even qualified or just a Yappuccino? Yeah, I have a PhD in physics. How's it going? It's going okay. How does the holographic principle reshape our view of reality? Well, considering that it's not like demonstrated or proven, like I don't know if it should. How do we know our math physics don't work in a black hole if we've never been in a black hole? Well, we know our math breaks down. Like it just starts giving like non-mathematical answers inside. So, what's your source of income? I work for a university. You have a car going near speed of light and turn on the headlights. How fast is the light from the car? It moves at the speed of light. Does light have weight? No, it does not. How do we know time relatively exists based on different masses? Oh, we can measure it. Like, we can literally measure it now. You don't know what's outside or not outside the universe. The universe is defined as everything inside, as everything, so it doesn't make sense for there to be an outside. How does quantum entanglement not violate relativity causality? Well, because no information is being transmitted. Nothing is traveling faster than the speed of light. Would you recommend pursuing a PhD in the USA for physics grads from abroad? Maybe not. Not in this political climate, which sucks, but... Did you forget a lot of what you learned in college? Maybe a lot of the details, but not a lot of the broad strokes. What was the favorite class that you have taught? I really like teaching intro mechanics. That's a really good class to teach. And optics. Do you work with research? Yeah. Would you rather have a black hole or... Come on. General or special relativity? I mean, general is better, because it's more general. Which model of the photoelectric effect is true? As far as I'm aware, there's only the one model. What's the most difficult concept to grasp in your field? BGG operators, and no one can tell me otherwise. Which model? Oh. How close do you think we are to finding out the shape of the universe? As far as we can tell, it's flat. Like, three-dimensionally flat. If you go with the speed of light, you will reach the end of the universe instantly in your perspective. There is no end of the universe, and no, you won't. The universe is expanding, and as far as we can tell, you would never be able to get to the edge even at the speed of light, because it's expanding. Are there any guts you find exciting by implication? Nobody's really working on guts anymore, as far as I'm aware. Like, it's kind of fringe. It's been pretty dead. What's the difference between a Lagrangian used in classical mechanics and a Lagrangian density in quantum mechanics? In principle, they're very, very closely related. Lagrangian densities in quantum mechanics are field Lagrangians. They're Lagrangians on fields rather than Lagrangians on point particles, but essentially they're the same. Will there be a cloud to ground lightning if clouds have gained positive charge instead of negative charge? I have no idea. Tell him to debate Stephen Crothers. He could come on to my lives if he wanted to. Oh, we have a guest from the YouTube show. All right, let's bring him on. Oh, nobody will be able to hear you. This is a bummer. Hold on. I got this. Application audio capture. There we go. Oscar, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What questions you got for me?
Oh, wow, that's crazy. I feel like my question is probably kind of basic, but
That's okay.
so my question is, let's say a photon of light leaves the sun, it bounces off, say, the wall, and it bounces into your eye. Is that photon, isn't that photon first absorbed by the atom which it hits? And then does the atom, the electron jumps up to the next level, decays, and then shoots out another photon? Or does that photon from the sun actually bounce off and go to your eye?
So it depends on the system, but generally speaking, generally speaking, they're kind of equivalent. That's kind of what bouncing is. But all photons are the same, so you can't really distinguish between the two. This is to say, though, okay, let me rephrase. So in an ideal setting, it's absolutely the case that you could set up some arbitrary system that's not like a real system, and you could have an actual bounce occur where it's never absorbed, and then an electron undergoes a transition, and then it re-emits the same photon. But in real scenarios, that is primarily what happens. You have an electron absorbing something, and then it re-emits it.
Wow, okay.
But
Cool,
it basically
thank you.
happens. It
That's
happens
all.
instantly. Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for being here, Oscar. Take care.
Thank you.
It turns out that photon interactions with matter is actually really complicated. I'm aware who Stephen Crothers is. He's a hack. How does a U1 gauge symmetry conserve charge? Plug it into the Dirac equation and see what happens. How accurate is calculus? Mega accurate. What are your thoughts on artificial gravity? Not real. Why is the mass proton neutron not equal to 1 AMU, but instead 1.01 AMU? Well, neutrons are slightly heavier than protons. But also, the AMU is defined by the mass of a carbon atom, C12, I think. And the mass of C12, because there's binding energy between the protons and neutrons, the mass of C12 is slightly less than the sum total mass of all the protons and neutrons. So yeah, the protons and neutrons are going to be a little bit heavier. How long does it take to bounce? Is it instant? Yeah, the thing is the bounce itself is sort of instant. And that's why the model with like the absorption and then re-emission it's not really right. But the electrons are involved. And while you can have just explicit scattering, or sorry, elastic scattering, that does transmit that, like the electron is involved there. So it's not like just the photon just bouncing off of something and not doing anything to anything else, because there is a momentum transfer, right? What does it mean for a photon to carry light? A photon is light. Is this only on YouTube, or no? It's on TikTok also. How does magnetism arise from relativity? I actually explained that just a little bit ago, but essentially it arises, I mean, you know, Jurgen will disagree with me, but essentially it arises just because you require that the observation from all reference frames, whether you're traveling with a moving charge or you're stationary with respect to a moving charge, sorry, whether you're traveling with a moving charge or you're not traveling with a moving charge, that all your observations should match up and all of the forces should agree. And that means that you have to add something extra. You have to add something extra to your field equations, and that's magnetism, that thing that you have to add extra. While gravity is curvature due to mass, why do things fall or curve at all? Well, because they're moving through space-time, and so they have to follow the curve. What is the physical part of light that travels through space? It's a photon. What physics does the biblical flood violate? Mass, or conservation of mass, I guess? What's your opinion on the latest DESI research suggesting the universe expansion being faster? No, it's slower. If the universe is expanding, what is it expanding into? It's not expanding into anything. Do you accept LQG string theory or something else? I don't really have a preferred. I don't really like accept any of them. Would it be fair to conceptualize quantum superposition as wormholes connecting all particles? Probably not. How can you see a single photon? Once you see it, shouldn't that absorb it? Yeah. In fact, we can see single photons. It's just very, very unlikely. But it's been tested, actually. Human eyes are that sensitive. Whatever happened to the promised myth of cold fusion? Oh, it was just debunked. It was a thing that people thought might be possible in like the 80s, and now we know why it's not. Does consciousness require higher? Oh, that's not a relevant question. What unifies the path integral with canonical quantization? They're just two different approaches, right? I think that this is actually not a question that we know the answer to, really. Bro doesn't believe in quantum physics, or what? Are radio waves particles? In a sense, they're photons, but they're better described by waves. Is there a particular theory of everything you find most exciting by application? Not really, no. How did you decide you wanted to focus on relativity? Did you have undergrad research in it? No, I didn't, but it's been the thing that made me care about physics at all. Like black holes and like, you know, like the Big Bang and stuff. That was always the stuff that I was interested in. What is the geometric intuition behind the Einstein tensor general relativity? There isn't one. As far as I can tell, there isn't one. There is geometric intuition for the Ricci tensor. There is geometric intuition for the Ricci scalar. There is no geometric intuition that I've been able to come up with for the Einstein tensor, because it's just some weird trace correction of the Ricci scalar, or of the Ricci tensor. Why does the moving to center of curve occur at all? I don't know what you mean by that. Can you explain what it means to be not locally real? What it means is, so what this means is that the universe is, the quantum mechanics is either not local or not real. What that means is, if it's not local, that means that you have properties, or you have information transfer that is faster than the speed of light. That's what non-local means. If it's not real, what that means is that even though you might have a real physical system, not all of its properties are well defined at every moment of time. Blitz, if you join an academy in India to teach, you can earn a lot of money, I swear. I've been told you're very crisp with your answers. Well, I appreciate that, but I don't think I'm moving to India anytime soon. New here, what's your materialist takeaway from the double slit experiment? That interactions cause particles to change their behavior. How does E equals mc squared apply to life? It doesn't. And how does the speed of light compare to the speed of sound? It's like millions of times faster. Based on new data from James Webb, is the universe still flat, open or closed? I don't think James Webb is probing that, but my understanding is that nothing's changed about the flatness of the universe. Thoughts on physics, envy, and social science? It's a real thing. Why does the curvature due to mass occur? Why does it follow the curve? Well, so that's like asking why do charged particles repel? Why do like charges repel? That just seems to be a fact of nature. How hard was calculus for you? Not very. The universe expands faster than light isn't the fastest thing there is, right? The universe doesn't have an expansion speed, it has an expansion rate, because it's not a thing moving. It's essentially a doubling time. Alright, let's bring on another guest. Let's bring on one from TikTok this time. Alright, let's bring on C-Bar. Long time watcher. Hey, bud.
I saw on Science Asylum a demonstration that somehow made gravity more fundamental in the universe than time is, in a way. He explained, at least the way I understood it, and I haven't been able to find the video since, so I could be off base, but he explained the clocks syncing up, as a mass, say in a decaying orbit, falls forward like a heavier mass, like a black hole. As they get closer and closer, their clocks eventually sync up, closer and closer, as the masses approach. Like when one is farther away and moving faster, the time goes by faster than it does on the larger body down at the surface. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. But how does that make... He somehow used this to make time almost that gravity causes time. And maybe off base, but is there anything to this?
Not from what I can tell. I don't know what channel you're referring to, but generally, if somebody has a new theory of time or of gravity or something, they're not going to post it first in a video. If it's like a theory to be taken seriously. So I suspect that there's probably nothing to it, but it'd be hard to say without actually seeing the thing.
Well, to me, in a way, it makes intuitive sense because, gravity time dilation, for example. When you move closer to a heavier mass, your clocks tend to sync up, and somehow it's
Sync
gravity
up with what?
causing that.
Sync up with
each
what?
other. They sync up with each other.
Wait,
like
but there's only one clock, right? Like if I have a clock and I'm getting closer to a heavier mass, what clock is my clock syncing up with?
To the one that's on the heavier mass. The clocks don't match up.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
So the clocks don't match up. So they even demonstrate this with GPS. How?
Yeah. I agree,
yeah.
but I don't know why that would mean that gravity is causing time.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I'd look more into it, and I'll bring it to the Discord.
Sure thing. Thanks, bud.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care. By the way, that's a really good segue. Join the Discord. If you're watching from YouTube or on TikTok, there's a Discord link in both the description on YouTube, in my link tree, on TikTok in my bio. And if you want to support me, there's also a Cash App link there. There's Buy Me a Coffee link there. So those are cool things to do too. Physics is vast. Which branch do you want to study? I have my PhD in physics already, but I do relativity generally. Anything that involves differential geometry is my game. That's what I do. Trying to publish some breakthrough papers on RV. Do you know what the best way to get endorsed are? Well, so look, you're talking about the archive. So Will, unfortunately, the probability of a non-endorsed person uploading a breakthrough paper onto the archive is like basically 0. And almost certainly nobody will endorse you. So what I would suggest is if you really do have a breakthrough idea, either publish it on a blog for now, and then like online just to lay claim to it, then go to university, get the credentials, and then publish it once you have those and once you know more. Is PhD worth it, or is free resources better if I just enjoy learning more? It depends on what you want to do. If you want to work in academia, then you need a PhD. No ifs, ands, or buts. What was your doctorate over, if you care to share? It was on conformal geometry. How does one visualize, picture an infinite universe at the time of the Big Bang? Well, it was just infinitely large then. Is gravity still considered a fundamental force? In some sense. Do you still believe in supersymmetry? I don't know if I ever did. How far is it? What jobs can I do from a physics degree? Well, you can go do physics if you want. What's your favorite unit of measurement? The smoot. Hoping to work with lasers in engineering. What's better after Calc 2? Linear algebra, Calc 3, or differential equations? Differential equations. If you're going to do engineering, you need differential equations. Just because we can conceptualize space outside the universe doesn't mean that there's space outside the universe. Yeah. Can you explain renormalization in QED? Yeah, basically, you do some calculations, you see some infinities, so you're like, nah, and then you throw them away. Regardless of if you believe that gravitons exist or not, how would you explain gravitons being able to escape a black hole even though other particles, massless or not, cannot? They wouldn't be. There wouldn't be gravitons escaping a black hole. Gravitational waves don't escape black holes. Good God, man, what are your words per minute on the keyboard? Did I type something recently? Very fast. Do you collaborate with others or solely? Oh, I almost solely do collaborations. Working on, I mean, like, I have written a few papers on my own, and I'll probably work on some more this summer. But like, it's so much more boring, and it's so much more self-conscious. Thought a master's could become a professor. If you want to work at a university, you need a PhD. If you could probably work at a community college with a master's, but they prefer PhDs. Gravitational waves do not go through black holes? No, they're eaten by black holes just like light waves are. How do you keep showing up in my recommended? I don't know, I guess you're interested in the kind of stuff that I do. How many tabs do you have open right now? Lots. Have your studies revealed a fine-tuning to the universe? Or I don't believe in God, no. Can you explain the process of Hawking radiation? The thing is we don't really have a good understanding, as far as I recall, of like the actual process. It's more of an asymptotic in, asymptotic out state. So essentially, if you look near a black hole, if you're just stationary while near a black hole, it's slightly warmer because of the acceleration that you have to do to stop yourself from falling in. And so if it's slightly warmer, then you have to, and this is essentially called the Unruh effect. And if it's slightly warmer, then it'll give off black body radiation. But if gravitons can't leave black holes, how would they be able to interact with mass? Gravitons would only carry gravitational waves. Not all gravity is gravitational waves. What does space expand into? Into itself. Virtual particles are kind of not real, as you said earlier. That applies equally well to gravity. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, gravitons That you could have virtual gravitons, but then those could escape a black hole no problem, because they're not real. Can you explain why I don't think they're actually direwolves? Well, they didn't take direwolf DNA, right? Shaxi, I'm not answering that question because I haven't thought about that kind of stuff in so long. You'd have to, if you had asked me 3 years into my PhD, I would have given you like the answer that, but I don't remember anymore. How do we deal with this, with singularities in the mathematics of GR? You don't. You just ignore them. You pretend that they're not there and then you work around them. Are you saying gravity is made up of components? Well, look, I mean, just like how there are not all electric fields are not all electromagnetic fields are electromagnetic waves. Not all gravitational fields are gravitational waves. Are you in a postdoc? Yeah, I am. And yes, I do work at a university. Do you remember the Faraday-Newman law? I remember Faraday's law, but I don't know the Faraday-Newman law. I don't know if I ever knew that. Does everything have spin? No, Higgs bosons don't. Just finished an undergrad GR course, which includes basic DG as a covariant derivative, Riemann curvatures. Is it worth pursuing a pure differential geometry course for further studying physics? If you like doing GR, absolutely. That was like my favorite thing. Like I took an undergrad GR course and I loved it, and that's essentially how I fell in love with differential geometry. Because it's just so satisfying to see everything work. In one vid you mentioned light in the early universe gaining energy. Did I? You'd have to remind me. Tag me in the video, maybe? Not sure if it's a physics question, but is the Earth actually slowing down? I keep saying, but yeah, the Earth's rotation is slowing down. Yeah, eventually it'll become tidally locked with the moon. How much computer science is involved in the work that you do? None. How does the expansion of the universe affect the curvature of space-time on large scales? It smears it out, generally. Does particle physics or GR have a more encompassing view of the universe? That's a... Depends on who you ask. Which research or study should we all be excited to explore? I don't know what that question means. Would you trade a degree for billions of dollars? Well, yeah, I could always get another degree. Like, as long as I don't lose my knowledge, yeah. I don't need a degree anymore. I got the degree. I know the stuff. I can write academic papers whether I have a degree or not. But I would probably have to go back for another degree because, you know, I couldn't get a job with that one. But I wouldn't need a job because I'd have billions of dollars. How do you feel about Neil deGrasse Tyson now? He's still highly regarded. So there were some allegations about like some creepy like I don't know if it was non-consensual, but like some creepy like stuff with women. But you know, so maybe don't highly regard him that way as like a person, but like his science communication skills are very, very good. He's not like highly regarded as a scientist because he doesn't really do science anymore. But he's a very, very, very skilled communicator. What discovery in physics would you most like to see figured out during your lifetime? I'd like to see some new theory of quantum gravity that actually works. Did you ever do anything in string theory? I dabbled just the smallest amount, because my first PhD advisor was a string theorist. But then I left and stopped working with her. The metric plays a physical role in Newton, special relativity, or GR. It is the assumption of units in an... Okay, yeah. You can't get a gauge theory about relativity, by the way, because the diffeomorphism group is not a gauge group. It's not a compact Lie algebra. Is that the first time someone you correct responded nicely in the comments? So, Ethan, I actually had a conversation with him in the DMs before I posted the video, and I asked if he's okay with me posting the response video. Because he seemed like a a good-natured guy, and so I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to tear him down. So I thought I was quite nice. If we exist in a black hole, then why wouldn't everything get spaghettified, pulled to singularity? Well, yeah, so that's why I'm not convinced that that's not why, but I don't really, I'm not really convinced that we live in a black hole. I have a breakthrough theory on gravitational waves proved with LIGO data. Well, Will, so then keep it, or post it on a blog so you can lay claim to the idea. Go get a degree, and then publish it. If it's breakthrough, you'll be able to get your degree fairly quickly if you're an expert. And then you'll be handed a PhD if you have a breakthrough theory. How easy is for a physicist to dabble into machine learning? I don't know. Never tried. Isn't there a black hole at the center of everything? No. You're agnostic or strictly atheist? I'm an atheist. I'm not really on the fence. The black hole is spinning. There is no singularity, right? There's a ringularity. It's a ring-shaped singularity. I'm an electrical engineer. Then your ideas are probably not right. Electrical engineers tend to be very, very wrong about physics most of the time, unfortunately. They are the group that is most likely to think that they're right about physics without actually being right. How big would a rotating space station have to be in order to have Earth-like gravity? Well, you could have Earth-like gravity, you just have to spin fast enough. Why does the North Star never move? I take a time-lapse vid and it shows the stars rotate around Polaris. Because it's in line with the North Pole. So if we're spinning about a pole, it will always appear to be in the same direction. Diffeomorphism variance can be expressed as a gauge group. I mean, not really. Not in the standard understanding of a gauge group. Shaxi, I'm not gonna... I have so much on my plate. But look, man, if you need the ideas, or if you have the ideas and you just need somebody to do some differential geometry for you, you know, email me. Is your wife or anyone in your family a physicist too? Nope, first. Do you think ITER will break even? I hope so. What's the difference between mathematical and other fields of physics? Mathematical physicists are mathematicians that like physics, essentially. Or mathematicians that do mathematics to physics things. Alternatively, you can think of them as physicists that like to prove things rigorously. Freebird. Indeed, I cannot play Freebird though. What would happen if Hawking radiation were to be exposed to a person? Nothing. It's basically not there. Did you see Ibrahim got his PhD? I did, and I wish I had, like, had I known earlier, I would have watched his defense. Because he sent me a link. But I didn't see it in time. How many classes will an EE engineer take to be a physicist? Probably like 3 years worth. They diverge after like the first year. Was particle physics your second favorite physics subject? Yeah, probably. Are you excited for the future of space travel, including nuclear-propelled rockets? Kinda. Why are medical professionals no longer shielding patients without shields? I just don't think that they did much. How do you choose a topic to study when you're doing research? That's a really hard question to answer, but essentially you kind of just get a feel for the research. I mean, as a grad student, your advisor should be helping you do that. But once you've been in it for a while, like I have, like a few years, you kind of just get a feel for the interesting questions that people are interested in and the things that are interesting to you. And you kind of just, like, there was a time, like, maybe 2 years ago, when I was kind of, like, out of ideas and I didn't really have a lot going on. But that's the only time that I've actually been out of stuff to do. Like, I have a running list of projects that I want to work on and things like that. What is differential geometry? Differential geometry is the field of mathematics that studies essentially the most generalized versions of curved shapes in space. Did you ever feel imposter syndrome in grad school? Yeah, absolutely. Do you believe the universe is a closed system? I don't know if that's a notion that even applies to universes. What do EEs get wrong the worst? Everything. Literally everything. Well, they tend to think that everything is electricity. Or magnetism. Alright, let's bring up another guest. Oh, let's bring up a guest from TikTok. Let's talk to Lucas A. Lucas, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. What questions you got for me?
So I was wondering about entropy because I just
Sure.
finished a the part of my physics class on like thermodynamics.
Mhm.
So if entropy is like always increasing, right, and always becoming less predictable, did the universe start in a more simple state, or is it something to do with like it expanding?
Yeah, so there's a few problems. So the second law of thermodynamics says that the entropy in a closed system never decreases, right? We don't know if the universe counts as a closed system. If the energy of the universe is increasing, then it's actually possible that the entropy just doesn't decrease. Or, sorry, just doesn't increase. But
Do
supposing
we
for a
know?
moment, we just don't. This is just not, like, this is kind of like an open question. But
Okay.
assuming for a moment that the second law does apply to the universe, which maybe it does, then yeah, we would definitely infer that the entropy of the universe in the early, like in the distant past, was much, much lower. And we can kind of see this because black holes have like an astounding amount of entropy. They have like almost all of the entropy in the universe is in the form of black holes. They're just like the maximal entropy things that you can have. I think, in fact, that like a single black hole, like a single stellar mass black hole, had more entropy than the universe did, 13.8, than the entire observable universe did 13.8 billion years ago. Like orders of magnitude more entropy. So yeah, if it is the case that the second law of thermodynamics applies, yes, the universe would have been in a very low entropy state 13.8 billion years ago. What that means, how it got to that state, is a different question.
Are there other forms of entropy outside of like heat? Because how I was taught, or how I understand it, is that you're transferring one energy to heat, and then you can never get heat energy to another form of energy with 100% efficiency.
Yep. Yeah, so there are. So black holes have entropy, which is strictly, people don't really consider it like thermodynamic entropy, but it is a type of entropy that adds to it. And like people just call it black hole entropy. And that entropy is in some sense related to the well, it's not really clear where it comes from, but it's in some sense related to like quantum mechanics being weird at the boundary of the black hole. And then there's also gravitational entropy. So imagine that you have like wiggly wobbly gravitational fields everywhere. That configuration of gravity is going to have more entropy than like a very smooth gravitational field. And so that's so absolutely you can have entropy contributions from the gravitational field, which isn't strictly like heat or anything. You can have entropy contributions from black holes. You can have entropy contributions from light even. So yeah, basically any type of thing in the universe can contribute to entropy.
Okay. Do you know any good places to like read up on stuff like this? Because I'm just curious about it. Or is it just stuff that requires lots of school?
You could at least probably read about the black hole thing. You could probably read about that in Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History of Time. That book is just like spectacular anyway, and I would recommend it to anybody, especially if you want to learn about like the universe and stuff. It's a little bit outdated, but it's still excellent. It's like the peak, or what is it, like the book to compare all pop science books to. So I would recommend that book, and it's probably not very expensive.
All right, thank you so much, man.
Of course, take care.
You too.
Neat. All right, let's answer some more questions. A gauge group doesn't have to be related to Yang-Mills. Typically, we talk about gauge groups as being compact Lie groups. Depends on what you mean by gauge group, though. What do you think of white holes? I heard it got disproven almost by antimatter not going up. White holes probably don't exist because they'd be very, 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 very bright. Can you explain why the universe is three-dimensionally flat, similar to how galaxy is flat? No. So it's three-dimensionally flat in the sense that it doesn't have any intrinsic curvature. It doesn't have any spatial curvature. That doesn't mean that it's not like three-dimensional. Like it has length, width, and height. It just means that it doesn't have any. It's not like the three-dimensional version of a sphere. Please repeat the book. A Brief History of Time. What are Lie groups good for? For symmetry. Are there 4D people watching us like we do 2D people? Well, there are no 2D people that were watching, so I don't think so. 2 years into a mechanical engineering degree, or 20, don't think this degree is fulfilling you. Do you still have time to switch to physics? Yeah, absolutely. Was on the opposite side of the edge of the universe. There isn't an edge. Wouldn't gravity be curvature? Yeah, so I'm talking about the intrinsic curvature of space, rather than the curvature that space gets from having matter in it. You frequently debunk debate flat earthers. What about climate change deniers? I do that occasionally too. Do you think physics is generally inaccessible to the public in terms of education? Yeah, but that's because our education is shite. How are black holes able to overcome neutron degeneracy pressure? We have no idea. We just don't know. Do you find yourself smart? Well, when compared to my colleagues, not really. Do you enjoy your job? Absolutely. How often do you cringe at Terrence Howard? Like, all the time. Think we're gonna meet 2%? I don't know what that is. Thoughts on Faraday's law? It's fine. It's part of Maxwell's equations. Can you talk a bit about the Penrose diagram? Yeah, it's a way of viewing space-time in which causality is maintained, but you don't really care about sizes and lengths and stuff. How can we determine that the universe is infinite if our observable universe is limited? Well, we can't. It could be limited, but that doesn't mean it has an edge. Bro does not want to talk about string theory. Well, I don't really buy string theory, so. Imagine being caught in a gravitational wave in deep space, being stretched. You wouldn't feel it for a normal-sized gravitational wave. It's way too small. Is the term quantum teleportation a misnomer? A little bit. What you're doing is you're taking the quantum state and you're teleporting that. You're not actually, like, because quantum particles are indistinguishable from each other, so it is really identical to just teleporting the actual particle. Why does the concept of symmetry in mathematics lead to such powerful insights into physics? You can blame Emmy Noether for that. Honestly, she was one of the, like, her contributions to our current understanding of physics are remarkably undersold. Like, because of her, she completely changed the way we think about physics. Like, she's one of the greats. Who do you admire more, Einstein or Hawking? Einstein. Easy. Does space curvature get smaller than the radius of a neutron due to gravity? Ah, no. So if the well, I don't really know what the question is. Do you think the universe is in a constant cycle of collapsing and expanding? Could be. I kind of lean that way. Can you explain how the not solid liquid gas states of matter work, or is it too big of an answer? So I made a video about that, but essentially, a state of matter is just any like kind of way that matter can be, where there's an abrupt transition between that way and some other way. That's basically it. Why is the action quantity not measurable, but the action difference differential is? For the same reason why energy is not measurable, just its difference or differential. At what level would we start to feel the gravitational wave? You'd have to be like within a kilometer of a supermassive black hole collision, or rather like of a regular sized black hole collision. Then you might feel it. What was her name? Emmy Noether. Noether. What were your majors in college? I did a double major, one in physics, one in mathematics. Do you think about your work in your free time? Yeah, sometimes. It depends on how engaged I am. Like, I'm a little bit, I'm waiting a lot on collaborators right now, so I don't have a lot of active stuff I'm doing. In fact, tomorrow I might spend most of my day reading, like reading papers and catching up. So it just depends on the day. $2 for Jay. You're in your guest box? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was about to add you. Jay, how's it going?
Hey, good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What questions you got for me?
I had a question about sort of the logistics of how a Big Bang, Big Crunch model would work. So
Sure.
I was sort of thinking, like, let's say our universe were to undergo a Big Crunch, right? We have supermassive black holes in every galaxy. They would all get smushed with every other supermassive black hole, and then everything. And then eventually, the universe would shrink to below the size of the communal black hole that is everything.
Yeah,
Then
it's
what
not.
happens?
It's super not clear how black holes behave in a dynamical universe like that. Like we just have no idea. Maybe everything falls into a black hole, and that is the big. Who knows? Like black holes in a dynamical spacetime are not well understood at all, especially when you get into the quantum regime. No, nobody knows.
I see. Okay, because I was kind of thinking if everything is inside a black hole, then I wasn't sure how it would expand out again. But I suppose the same question could be asked about the early universe, right? Because everything
exactly.
was so dense that it's like being inside a black hole. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Nobody knows.
Okay, and then I guess my only one other question would be, what was the size of the universe at the beginning of the cosmic inflation epoch and at the end?
Well, it depends. Do you mean the size of the observable universe?
Sure, yes. I mean, of course, the universe itself would be infinite beyond
so
that, but
I
our
think
observable universe.
So
yeah.
I think in like, this is a number that I could in principle look up. My understanding is that the observable universe was like the size of a basketball after the inflationary epoch. And I think it was like very, very small before. So I think it went through what, like 27 doublings or something like that in size during the inflationary epoch. And this is like over the period of time of like 10 to the minus 34 seconds or something.
Okay, so it was kind of it was the size of the basketball at the end of the inflationary epoch, but then the CMB is like when it was 100 million light years across.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That answers my question. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thanks so much.
All right, y'all. I might answer questions for a little bit longer. Rob, with the $2, thank you. I appreciate you. Very appreciated. I might answer a few more questions, then call it a day, I think, because it is already 9:30. If I would fly around the Earth 24 times in 1 minute, would you be older? How long does it take light to go around the Earth? The Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference, so light travels around about 20 times per second. So yeah, I guess you'd be traveling at like 1 or 2% the speed of light. But you wouldn't get, I mean, of course you would be about a minute older. If virtual particles come into existence and immediately annihilate, could the energy given off by that cause a dark energy type effect? Sort of. That was the original thinking, but that gets the answer wrong by 50 orders of magnitude. The size of the observable universe at the end of inflation depends on the energy scale of inflation. Yeah, absolutely. But I think that the inflationary period typically ends at 10 to the minus 34 seconds, but I'd have to look at the numbers. But I'm talking about like OG inflation. Thanks again. Thanks for the $5, Jay. I appreciate you. But yeah, definitely double check those numbers. Don't take those as gospel because I'd have to look them up anyway. PhD after undergrad, a good idea? If you want a PhD, yeah, that's when you should do it. Where are you that it's 9:30 right now? I'm in Europe. How do I get a girlfriend? Be decent, I guess. How much time for fusion energy to take over? Who knows? Yeah, 50 orders of magnitude is close enough for government work. I don't know, man. I don't know. Were you naturally good at science in high school, or was it something? I was naturally good at mathematics. I didn't really take a whole lot of like serious science. I mean, I was always interested in science, but like, I don't know if I could say I was good at science because I didn't have serious science classes. Like, I didn't have. Maybe that means I was good because it wasn't challenging, but it just, I don't know. I feel like I didn't learn a lot of science in high school. Having second thoughts on studying physics because I don't know if I'm smart enough. Can anyone be sure? How can anyone be sure if physics is the right fit for them? All you can do is try. Do you understand how much of physics education you can? I only ask because I'm wondering how a first-class integrated master's degree in physics can get you a PhD in physics. It probably can, yeah. Do you think physical laws can be non-intrinsic across time and space? Maybe, but that'd be very weird. Where in Europe? I'm in the Czech Republic. What are your suggested prerequisites for studying group theory? Probably linear algebra. You don't really need much more than that, but mathematical maturity would be definitely helpful. All right, y'all. I think I'm gonna end the live because I've been talking for an hour and a half straight. But thanks everybody for being here, and thanks for the donations if you sent them. Remember to follow along if you're watching on YouTube or on TikTok. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Join the Discord if you're watching on either. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for some more debates.